You know what, Ethan? I am tired of you listening to stupid video game music. Listen to my white girl trash with me. Listen to Olivia Rodrigo with me, please. I'm so tired of you listening to stupid Donkey Kong. So choose right now, me or Donkey Kong.
Video game music has turned into as much of a hobby than actually playing the games itself. It brings me so much joy to put my awesome headphones on and listen to the complex instrumentation and melodies present in video game OSTs. The thing I love so much about video game music is the variety of genres, whether it's jazz, orchestra, 8-bit, 16-bit, lyrical, or atmospheric music. Literally anything is possible. Clutchathan may squeal, why don't you listen to actual music with these genres? Well, because I love video games and quite frankly, it pulls it off better. But y'all probably already knew about my love of video game music, seeing that I mention soundtracks in every single game review I do. I wanted to originally make this video a ranking, but my opinions on my favorite soundtracks change a lot. So I decided to structure this video into 5 parts on screen right now. Without further ado, let's get into the first part of the video.
We're going to be starting things off with jazz soundtracks. And you may be wondering, what does he want to talk about? I don't know any jazz soundtracks. I mean, come on guys, think. It's obvious. It's Doom Eternal.
Get trolled. I was actually going to talk about Cuphead. This game is synonymous with jazz music at this point. It sounds directly ripped out of the 1930s swing era. It's just so good, to the point where I've listened to the soundtrack so much, I've memorized whenever all of the solos will come up and I know which instrument will be playing during that solo. It's a problem.
Here's an example, Clipjoint Calamity. You have a piano solo first, then a clarinet solo, and then at the end, you have a trombone with a mute solo. Ladies, one at a time.
If I were making a ranking video, Cuphead would be very high, if not number 1. I am in love with its 1930s style jazz. But there's also one big band jazzy soundtrack that I want to cover in this video. And that is, you might have heard of it before, Mario Kart 8. If you put me at gunpoint, I would say Mario Kart 8 is my favorite soundtrack Nintendo has ever put out in its history. I love it so much. And just like Cuphead, I've listened to it so much where I could just repeat things I hear in my sleep. And with Mario Kart, all the prior games in the series did not have live instrumentation, but 8 just goes all out with the live big band music. Oh, it's so good. It's kind of hard for me to classify Mario Kart 8 as a jazz-only soundtrack like Cuphead is. It's very diverse and it has like techno-like music, it has orchestrated music, but the majority of it is big band jazz. Dolphin Shoals has one of the best saxophone solos I've ever heard in my life, no contest. And then Rainbow Road for N64 has an amazing trumpet solo. I can just go on and on about this amazing diverse soundtrack. So overall, I'm in love with the jazz big band genre. As you can tell, I just gloated about these 2 soundtracks a ton. So that just about wraps up the jazz genre. Mario Kart 8 and Cuphead are 2 of my favorite soundtracks of all time. And as you can tell, I'm not going to be talking about every single soundtrack in existence for said genre I'm talking about, but I just want to name some of my favorites and just explain some of the things they do very well. And Cuphead and Mario Kart 8, yeah, they're good at blowing instruments. Man, I'm so good at writing scripts.
Now we're going to talk about some great soundtracks that don't have live instruments at all. And you know what that means? I get to slightly reference Sans.
Undertale, the indie darling RPG that is one of the most popular games to come out of our generation, and its OST is no exception. It is the most popular video game OST I've ever seen in my life. The least viewed song on this soundtrack has about 4 million views. Other soundtracks, that'd be their most viewed. And one man with no instruments at all pulled this off. Pulled the most iconic soundtrack of this generation off. How did he do it, you may ask? one word, motifs. Now, Clutchathan's going to give you a little lesson on what motifs are and how they are applied in Undertale's soundtrack, since I am such a musical professional. So a motif is a short succession of notes producing a single impression, a brief melodic or rhythmic formula out of which longer passages are developed. So what that means is Toby Fox created a couple of melodies and then reused those melodies in different songs in a remix type of fashion, so he wouldn't have to create a multiple different songs for the game. But he remixed them in a way so they're fresh every single time, and I never got tired of hearing those awesome melodies that he made. Let me give you an example. Death by Glamour, one of the most popular songs in this game and one of my personal favorites, is a remix of 3 different songs you hear prior in the Hotlands. And all 3 of those songs related to Mettaton in some form or fashion, the boss that you're facing. And once it all culminates in Death by Glamour and those songs that you heard prior in the game, it's just so good, and it is a magnificent use of the motif. Toby Fox does this so well throughout the whole entire game. The Undertale melody is very popular with him, and he used that through most of his songs, but yet I never got tired of it because of the way he remixed it. Toby Fox, you have created a masterpiece of a soundtrack that will never be forgotten. Too bad your fandom sucks. Hey look, there's Sans! The Messenger's OST is a prime example of what the legend Barney Stinson likes to listen to. It starts high and it ends high. This soundtrack does not have a single slow song in it at all. It starts off with some banging 8-bit tunes and it ends off with some banging 16-bit tunes. Man, this soundtrack is just so high octane, high energy the whole time while you're slicing through enemies and making mincemeat of everything you see. As mentioned in my The Messenger review, I love how this soundtrack just seamlessly transitions between 8-bit and 16-bit music on the fly during the Metroidvania section of the game, whenever you're switching through time. It's amazing, and every single song in this game I like to some degree. It's just fantastic. Soundtrack of the year for me so far, and just like The Messenger is one of my favorite games I've played this year, this is definitely my favorite soundtrack of the year. It rivals Undertale to be one of my favorite non-live instrument soundtracks ever. Celeste, my self-proclaimed favorite 2D platformer of all time, has a really good soundtrack. And I know I'm talking about soundtracks that don't have live instruments in it. This is a special case. It does have a live piano in it, I'm very certain. And I'm pretty sure it has a live guitar in it at some point. But I really wanted to talk about the soundtrack, and I had no idea where to put it, so it's like / electrical music, because the soundtrack really tampers with electric and synth stuff. So that's definitely going to be classified in this genre. So let's get into it. Lena Raine, otherwise known as Minecraft Music Girl, did this soundtrack before she did Minecraft, and my lord does she do a fantastic job on this. Gosh, the piano in this soundtrack is just to die for. It is one of the best piano-centric soundtracks I've ever heard in my life. Man, I really pulled a Clutchathan. I was talking about how this is one of the best piano-centered soundtracks I've ever heard. And the song I'm playing in the background don't have a piano in it at all. It's one of the only songs in the game that don't have a piano. What was I thinking? We have a B-side song playing in the background. Let's talk about them for a little bit. They're mostly remixes of the A-side songs made by Lena Raine, but they're composed by different people. Like my favorite one, 5B, was made by Too Mellow. That's a really nice jazzy song, and this one in the background is the Good Karma mix. But the reason it's kind of weird is it's not a remix of Scattered and Lost whatsoever, the original song that plays in 3A.
When I was listening to it, when I was playing through 3B, I was like, Scattered and Lost is one of my favorite songs in this game. Where's the remix of that? But I eventually got over that, and now I love good Carmine mix. It's just so good. Whoever did Crystal Lee did a jam up job on that one. It's really, really, really good. I swear, one day in my life, I'm going to go to a mountain, climb it, with the Celeste soundtrack playing in my headphones. I will do it. I will do it. Say I won't do it. Say I won't do it.
I won't do it. DKC 1 and DKC 2 for the Super Nintendo have some of my favorite 16-bit soundtracks of all time. David Wise is just an absolute legend, and his compositions will never be forgotten in the video game music community. They just mean so much to a ton of people, and me too. Sticker Bus Symphony is one of the best video game songs ever. And then just everything else in DKC 2 and DKC 1 is just perfection.
Atmospheric music in video games is a very fickle thing. Like, whatever your atmosphere your game sets, that's what kind of music you're gonna have, right? Like, if your atmosphere is slaying demons and ripping demons' faces off and shoving them up their own faces after ripping their faces off, well then obviously you're gonna have rock music, right, Doom Eternal? And, I mean, if your atmosphere is like just a calm, relaxing beach island paradise, you're gonna have calm, relaxing music. So, atmospheric music isn't necessarily one genre by itself. It just nails the atmosphere of its game so well, it gets its own Clutchathan genre. Let's talk about Animal Crossing.
Just in case you've been living under a rock for the past few years, Animal Crossing is a life sim game where you fish, do chores, pay debt, just live a normal life with animals. And it's just a super, super fun, really addicting game. Granted, I've only played New Horizons, the newest entry in the series, but I know enough about the series to cover the music as a whole. Animal Crossing has a very chill and relaxing vibe to it. There are 4 main soundtracks in the series I want to cover today. There's Animal Crossing for the GameCube, there's City Folk, there's New Leaf, and then there's New Horizons. There's Wild World, but I believe it shares a soundtrack with City Folk, but I could be wrong, but I'm going to be covering these 4 soundtracks. For the people that don't know, Animal Crossing runs on a real-time clock, and every game in the series has hourly music. Every hour, a new song plays, and it's so fun debating which game has the best hourly music, which hours are the best. Usually 5 p.m. has the best track in every game, and my favorite 5 p.m. track is probably New Horizons, even though I think New Leaf has the best hourly music out of any of the games by far. This really isn't a new opinion, but New Leaf just is peak Animal Crossing music. It just captures the atmosphere of Animal Crossing so well. It has the classic accordion present in the prior games. It has the piano. It has the tropical sound. It just all culminates into a wonderful, atmospheric, relaxing time. And the feelings of nostalgia it must emit if you've actually played the game, my goodness, it'd probably bring you to tears. Now, City Folk's soundtrack is very high revered too. It has that classic accordion I was talking about earlier. It's also pretty relaxing. The soundtrack is nothing really special like New Leaf or New Horizons in my opinion. Based opinion alert, I actually like New Horizons soundtrack. Most people don't. They say it don't have that Animal Crossing charm or atmosphere they're expecting from it. But it has a tropical sound, it has some nice live instruments playing, and I just really like it. Even though it has a synthy sound to it, I know synth is not an Animal Crossing staple, but New Horizons has a really good soundtrack. And Animal Crossing GameCube soundtrack isn't really my favorite, but it's alright. Overall, Animal Crossing just captures the atmosphere of a life sim game where you're talking with animals and playing around with fish and bugs. It just fits the quiet life so well. Now, what if I told you that Animal Crossing's composer Kazumi Takota did some other soundtrack we know? It starts with Breath and ends with Of the Wild. Mind blown. Yup, you heard that right. Breath of the Wild, Nintendo's latest installment in the Zelda series, an action-adventure genre game. Animal Crossing soundtrack does not belong in an action-adventure game. Or does it? Y'all should know by now that Breath of the Wild does not have the same tropes as an old Zelda game. And same goes with the music. It strayed away from the epic orchestral score and went with a more somber, melancholic, atmospheric score. I used to not care that much for Breath of the Wild's OST, but now I respect it on a whole new level. It is pure, majestic beauty. I know most of Breath of the Wild soundtrack consists of a single piano playing a couple of notes with nature sounds. I know that, but the town themes in this game are just so beautiful. Breath of the Wild definitely isn't my favorite soundtrack in the series because Zelda just has a long, lustrous history of great soundtracks. But Breath of the Wild does fit the post-calamity atmosphere so well with the melancholic piano and the nature sounds. Gosh, it's just so good. And then the town themes, and then there is some upbeat epic orchestra in this soundtrack too, don't get me wrong. Now, Breath of the Wild isn't the only game in the series that has an amazing atmospheric soundtrack, because Majora's Mask, my gosh, Majora's Mask fits a world of complete utter doom so well. As sad as it is to say, Hollow Knight has the same atmosphere as an emo kid. And why do I like this game so much? I have no idea. In honor of this, I'm going to be making edgy jokes this whole time I'm going to be reviewing this, so yeah, strap in. Hollow Knight is a cult classic Metroidvania made by Team Cherry in 2017. And wait, hold up, why in the world am I telling y'all this? I've reviewed this game about 3 times on this channel. Y'all should know what Hollow Knight is by this point. I mean, Hollow Knight's one of my favorite games of all time. If you don't know what it is, you're basically dead to me. Edgy joke. In my opinion, Hollow Knight is the best atmospheric soundtrack of all time. It captures this feeling of dread and depression while making you feel the weight of Hallownest's past. It also provides you with some memorable melodies that you'll be humming to yourself for hours on end. And the boss music in this game also, while non-atmospheric, are just freaking bops. This heartfelt soundtrack really makes you feel the undeniable tragedy of Hallownest while putting you, the player, in the shoes of a depraved emotionless vessel whose father left him, and it wasn't to get the milk, it was to get the buzzsaws. The knight knew all along the tragedy of life and how to get through it by just marching on and going through a vast world, not known by the world, and just being shunned by everyone because you're just an emotionless vessel. Sometimes we can be emotionless vessels if we just try hard enough. I don't know what I'm saying at this point, but the point is, the knight looks like one of the kids I have in my basement. Whoa, look at all the charms I have. And now there is no better time to introduce my sponsor for the video, Raycon Everyday Earbuds. I mean, I don't go anywhere without putting these in. I love Raycon so much. I mean, I look so cool with them in. I just look so stylish with them in. These Raycons are one size fit all. They're Bluetooth. They got some great speakers. Just look at these babies go. They are so hot. Just look at this. These Raycons are just so awesome, guys. I mean, I used to like not listen to music, but now ever since I got the Raycons, I don't go anywhere with these in. I literally even go to the shower with these in. They electrocute my ears a little bit, but that's about it. I love listening to video game music in front of my old girlfriend. yeah, how you like this now? How you like this now? Hey Raycon, hit me up with those with them digits. Hit me up with them digits to give me some money. Raycon Everyday Earbuds, everyone. Get them now. You better buy Raycons, or I will find your IP address and dox the ever-living crap out of you. You would never see the light of day. I know your IP address and I'm in your walls right now. Your IP is 253.1. Okay, so you know how I said earlier how we're going to be covering 4 different genres? Well, I lied. There's one more. But this one's special. It is one game because it reinvented the wheel and basically made itself completely unique from any other game soundtrack out there. And that is Persona 5. Let's get into it. OMG, Clutchathan, you're talking about an anime RPG, Persona 5? Well, yes, I am, because it has a kick-butt soundtrack. Persona 5 is just a modern classic when it comes to video game OSTs. It is instantly recognizable to the point where any song that has a bass in it as a lead instrument, oh, that's Persona 5 vibes. See Bubsy 3D? Yeah, that's Persona vibes right there. Speaking of the bass, if you love the bass as an instrument at all, you will absolutely drool over this soundtrack. This soundtrack makes the bass sound so freaking stylish. Good lord, the bass in this soundtrack is just mwah worthy. Oh, and yeah, it has some of the best lyrical music in video game history.
You never see it coming. You see that my mind is too fast for eyes. You're damned.
I know Persona 5 is known for its just incredible lyrical music, but I'll have to beg to differ and say that the instrumental music is just as good and just as classic as like something like Last Surprise. Like I was saying earlier, the music is just so recognizable and just unique from every other video game OST out there, because the organ and the bass are primarily the main instruments. Me and my sister like to play this game where I play a video game song and she has to recognize what game it's from. And every time I play a Persona 5 song... Welcome back to another episode of Name That Tune. What tune is this?
The Joker game.
Dang! And she's just heard these songs in the background of a Smash Bros. Stage. That just shows you how iconic this music is and how recognizable it is. Even though this isn't one of my personal favorite soundtracks because I haven't played the game, I can honestly say this is one of the best video game soundtracks of all time. Orchestra has been the primary method for scoring media for the past like 50 to 60 years. Most movies use an orchestral score, and now video games starting to use them. Most N64 games had a fake orchestra score because they couldn't use the actual live orchestra, obviously. But the Wii era brought the live orchestra scores to the mainstream. And the most popular one of them all, Mario Galaxy. Mario Galaxy is revered as one of the best Mario soundtracks of all time, and also one of the best soundtracks in general of all time. But I've already covered the soundtrack multiple times on the channel, so I'm not going to keep repeating myself and becoming a broken record, so I'll leave that one be. I'm going to be covering two of my favorite orchestral score soundtracks of all time, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Let's get into it. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is really a Swiss Army knife of soundtracks. I mean, it has rock, it has orchestra, it has pretty much everything. Heck, it even has some lyrical and jazz music. But primarily it is orchestral music while you're roaming the plains, the wastes, the swamps. It has this beautiful orchestra backing you, and I just cannot explain the feelings it gives while you're exploring this vast overworld, while this beautiful orchestra is just playing. This is probably the first and only time I will ever buy a game for its soundtrack alone. I have never played a JRPG in my life. This is the first and probably only JRPG I'll ever play. But I'm having a decent enough time. It's a weird game, and I probably have a review out on it pretty decently soon. But the main reason I got this game, besides the constant begging from Inferno, and after 2 years of him begging, I finally caved and bought Xenoblade Chronicles 2. It was mostly because of the music, but we'll let Inferno think that he had a big influence on it. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was composed by the great Ace Hardware Store. You know what they say, Ace is the place with the helpful soundtrack, folks. I'm just kidding. Let everyone laugh, please. Laugh, please. Okay, actually, Xenoblade Chronicles was composed by Ace. Ace is very well known for their remixes in the Smash Bros. Ultimate game. They've composed some of the best remixes in the game by far. They remixed Gangplank Galleon, Holland Darlana, Beneath the Mask from Persona 5. They took that chill song and just amped it up into like some hip-hop vibe song. It's just awesome. Ace does an amazing job on whatever they do, and this soundtrack is their magnum opus. Whether you're traversing vast open worlds with some beautiful orchestra in the background, or just wailing on some enemies with some just guitar riffs and some excellent rock and roll, this soundtrack is a full course meal for your ears. It just feeds your ears. all kinds of genres at the same time while perfecting the art. It is just incredible. If only this game did not have an anime art style and have some weird quotes every now and then.
That's Morag, the Flamebringer, the most powerful driver in the Empire, and wielder of Bridget, the most powerful blade.
So together they're like ultra powerful.
Here's Counterattack, one of the best songs in Xenoblade Chronicles 2. And here's Smash Bros, one of the best series in the world at remixing songs. So together, they're like ultra good. No, they don't. The Counterattack remix absolutely sucks.
To say that Ori and the Will of the Wisps means a lot to me is an understatement. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is in my top 15 favorite games of all time, and it's for good reason. It's a great Metroidvania with fun battle mechanics, an amazing art style, and just really fun level design and mechanics overall. But Ori's soundtrack is pure bliss throughout the whole entire runtime of the game. Whether it's the booming boss music or the serene area themes, this game's soundtrack is always hitting hard. On a personal level, Ori and the Will of the Wisps soundtrack means more to me than any other soundtrack I've mentioned in this video, and I will explain. But first, I'd like to mention, Gareth Coker is my absolute hero. He's a genius.
Like I mentioned earlier with Toby Fox, Gareth Coker really likes to play around with the motifs and bringing back previous melodies from previous games and previous levels, and it just all ties together really nicely. So it's just an amazing soundtrack overall, but on a personal level is why you're intrigued, I guess. Ori and the Will of the Wisps was with me with one of the worst times in my life ever. I was just so confused and lost and just a shell of myself, and I listened to Ori's soundtrack all the time during this time where I had my first breakup in real life. I broke up with my girlfriend and stuff, and this was only about 6 months ago, because I was playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps for the first time in like September around that time. I was just loving the game, and then all that happened, and I stopped playing it for a little tad and just started playing it again. It became a coping mechanism for me in just escape my real life problems. I loved Ori and the Will of the Wisps so much, but it's not the gameplay, it's not the visuals that just kept me hooked to the game. It was Gareth Coker's incredible score. I will never forget it. It is one of the best scores in video game history, in my personal opinion. The orchestra is just pure majestic beauty. Yes, that's the title of the video, and yes, I am using it on Ori's soundtrack. It is nothing short of perfection. And I remember sitting down right here with my headphones on, listening to Ori's soundtrack and just thinking about life. And it was there for me. It was there. Ori and the Will of the Wisps was there for me to listen to and just enjoy during that rough patch. And I thank you. And that leads right into my next section of the video. Video game music's impact on me and my life.
As sad as it is to say, video game music is very frowned upon by most of the world. No one thinks it's real art. No one thinks that it's good compared to other music. Everyone frowns at video game music, and if you listen to it, you're actually weird and there's something wrong with you. Straight up say it, I've been ashamed to say that I listen to video game music. Whenever someone asks me what music I listen to on like my basketball team or something, I usually respond with this.
I listen to nothing. I really like silence.
And every now and then, I'll work up the courage to actually tell people what music I listen to. Keep in mind, these are like my really close friends that I tell this to. And yeah, I get made fun of, and they're like, where's the lyrics? Where's the words? This is so weird. Why are you so weird? This is the weirdest music I've ever heard in my life. You really listen to this and not country? And I just awkwardly sit there in the corner like, yep. Because I really don't know how to defend myself and defend video game music right there on the spot. But hey, I don't see my friends making half-hour videos on the music they listen to. So how about that? It just ticks me off when people say, video game music is not real music. Yes, it is. It has more complex melodies and instrumentation than quote-unquote real music can ever dream to have. I mean, it's crazy. Let's just say this. A rap song will have a generic snare beat and a bunch of profanities littered throughout. Nothing can make you reminisce about your childhood more than video game music, in my opinion. Zelda music really almost puts a tear to my eye every time I listen to it, because it's just so good at conveying nostalgia to me, because I played Zelda so much as a kid. I'm going to listen to a Zelda song, and it's not going to make me feel nostalgic. It's not going to make me want to feel like a child again. It's not going to make me tear up. It won't. It won't. I promise. Oh, no, not this part. No, not this part. No, not this part. No. And it's not just Wind Waker. A lot of other Zelda games have that nostalgic charm for me, where I just almost cry every time I hear the music, just because it reminds me of my childhood and having fun playing Zelda and not having any other problems in the world at all. Nothing else. Just playing Zelda, playing basketball, and having a good time in life. I've really listened to video game music for almost my whole life. I remember as a kid playing Smash Bros on the 3DS, and it came with a soundtrack on there. I remember plugging some Apple headphones into my 3DS because back when they had the jack, and I used to listen to the Smash Bros soundtrack all the time and listen to my favorites. I remember I liked the Mega Man remix, I liked Gerudo Valley remix. I've always loved video game music and instrumental music as a whole. I know it seems like I'm incredibly biased towards video game music, which I am, but I really do like other types of music too. Like, I can appreciate other music a lot. But video game music, man, it's always been right up my alley. I just love instrumentation so much, and I always have. I remember when I first got my phone, I had this random thought that popped into my head. What if I looked up Zelda music on YouTube? I wonder if it's there. And I looked it up, and sure enough it was, and I just got obsessed with listening to video game music. And one thing led to another, and video game music has got me into a bunch of franchises I never would have got into in the first place. Like Xenoblade or Undertale, Cuphead. Just listening to all their music has made me interested in their games, and I've absolutely loved all these games. Just to wrap up this whole lengthy video in a couple of sentences and why I love video game music so much. Video game music has just got me through a bunch of hard times. It gives me nostalgia for my childhood. It's just absolutely incredible with its instrumentation and the complex melodies. It uses motifs well. It's fantastic at creating a unique atmosphere, and whether it's jazz, orchestra, 16-bit, 8-bit, electrical, Persona 5, atmospheric, I will always be there to listen to it. All these soundtracks I've listened to for countless hours, and I've listened to the songs individually countless times. I just cannot explain how much these soundtracks and those songs in said soundtracks mean to me, and how many times I've listened to them working or vacuuming the house, cleaning up the yard, doing homework, or just laying on my bed listening to some awesome video game music, and it just puts me in a relaxed state, and it's just such a vibe. Now it's time to name some of my favorite video game composers and just thank them for their incredible work. Koji Kondo, Christopher Madigan, Christopher Larkin, Toby Fox, Lena Raine, Ace Studios. They're all so good at what they do, and just keep making music, guys, because I'll keep listening to it. Well, I think I've explained myself enough on why I love this genre of music so much, and I hope y'all came away with something. I hope y'all are crying right now, and I hope y'all had a great time watching the video, and this 30 minutes flew by. This has been your monthly dose of Clutchathan. You know what? After making a 35-minute video on video game music, I am no longer ashamed of it. So I'm going to tell the whole world I love video game music, starting now. World, I like video game music. I listen to video game music, not silence. I listen to video game music. What's up? Hey, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? Hey, you remember me, right? Guys, I'm an outcast now. no one even touches me. They treat me like I have a terminal illness not cured by anything. They're running away from me like girls run away from Genshin Impact players. They're ruthless. I got this note today at school. You are not normal. Now I can't get off my mattress because they just keep asking me, why am I so sad, kid? And I wear a mask all the time. I try to hide away the sadness because that's what one of the mask is. Clutchathan made a funny Minecraft Dream reference. Please subscribe for more Minecraft Dream references. Thank you. Bye-bye.